Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Becoming an Empowered Parent online series, offering expert tools for embracing imperfection, building connection, and creating more peace and joy within your family. I'm absolutely thrilled that you're here. I'm your host, Debbie Zeichner. I'm a parent coach, mindfulness facilitator, and licensed clinical social worker. And today I am absolutely thrilled to be joined by my friend and colleague, Jeanne-Marie Paynel. Hi, Jeanne-Marie.
Hello, Debbie. So wonderful to be here with you.
Oh, thank you. I'm really, really excited that you're here. So before we dive into today's topic, we're going to be talking about how to create a calm, stress-free home for you and your baby, which I know is a topic that many parents are very interested in. Before we dive in, I would like to share a bit more about Jeanne-Marie with you. So Jeanne-Marie Paynel is a parenting mentor and home consultant, helping parents let go of the overwhelm so they can enjoy raising self-sufficient and resilient children with ease. Host of the Art of Parenting podcast and founder of Your Parenting Mentor, formerly Voila Montessori, where she guides expected parents, caregivers, and parents of young children on how to better prepare their homes and themselves for their children to thrive during the first years of life. She believes that a supportive and peaceful atmosphere at home will allow every child to grow up as an independent, confident, and capable learner. She combines her three passions: Montessori, conscious parenting, and positive discipline, passions that we share. I'm so excited. Her mission is to help parents appreciate the true importance of their role, not as servants or teachers, but as supporters and guides of their children's natural development. Really excited that you're here. So Jeanne-Marie and I met many, many years ago through just the positive discipline world. And we had an opportunity to collaborate when Jeanne-Marie had her own parenting summit that I was a part of a few years ago. So it's just so nice to be in contact with you. And I absolutely adore Jeanne-Marie as a person. I'm a huge fan of her work. So this really is a treat to have her on with us today. So now, Jeanne-Marie, that we know a bit more about you professionally, I'm wondering if you could share a bit about you yourself personally, just a bit about your journey and how you got into this work.
Oh, wow. So, so I am a mother of two young adults, actually, a 23-year-old and a 19-year-old. And how I came to this work, basically after my second, I had kind of, I think what one would call a midlife crisis, where you just kind of take a pause and reevaluate where you are and the work you're doing. And I was at the time working as a graphic designer in advertising.
Wow.
And my mother had actually just passed, so I was, you know, a mom with two young ones. And kind of, I don't know, it just, that there was a lot going on that I just had to, what is important? How do I want to really show up for the world? And it was really about wanting to be with children and wanting to better understand children. It's something that I'd always been passionate about since you know, a young adolescent and volunteering in daycares and things like that. And I had kind of lost, you know, my way of and such. And so really it all happened within 24 hours. I mean, it's kind of a crazy story where, you know, I kind of thought, okay, I need to look into what else I can do. And I actually phoned the Montessori Institute here in San Diego. And it was basically, like I said, it happened very quickly because they had already started their course. They said that I could come in the next morning and meet with the director. And I knew at that moment when I hung up the phone that my life was about to change. And it did, because the next morning I went into the Institute, was, you know, blown away with the information that was being shared. And it was just, that's where I needed to be. So I actually went back to my work, gave my 2 weeks notice, and my life changed. And I did my master's in Montessori education, then taught in the Montessori classroom for many years, and then realized that I really wanted to really share this information with parents, that there was so much beautiful wisdom and knowledge that was being kept for the teachers, and that the parents are the one that need it most, because, being in the classroom, you see how amazing these children are and how capable they are. And oftentimes the issue isn't with them, but it's how they might be parented. And parents were coming up to me with so many questions of, how can I recreate this at home? Like, why is my child so different, in this environment than at home? And that's where I really set up my own business, like you said, Voilà Montessori, to really empower parents to have this knowledge and to have a better understanding of how important our environment is, and also how we show up to this relationship, to what I think is a collaborative relationship that we have with our children.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. And we just all feel your passion for this work. And I love that it's, graphic designer turned Montessori educator. I absolutely love it. Right. That is fantastic. Yeah. Thank you. So, many may have heard of the Montessori method, right? And may not be familiar with all that it entails. So as a Montessori trained teacher and practitioner, I'm wondering if you could share a bit more about the philosophy itself, so that we can really gain a better understanding of all that's involved.
Sure. So Montessori itself, the name comes from a woman, actually the first woman allowed to go to medical school in Rome more than a century ago.
Wow.
And Maria Montessori was a mother herself, and she actually, after medical school, with that real methodological and scientific approach, really started wanting to better understand human development, and really dedicated her life to understanding children. But also, it was a time when children had no rights. Like they were kind of second citizens. And she really awakened us to the importance of childhood and the importance of infancy, and that they did not come to us as this empty vessel that we had to fill them up, but they came ready to learn, so curious and so capable. So and it's just really beautiful. So in the kind of the more classical setting, the classroom setting, my apologies, there's the helicopter going up. It's really, the difference is really that it is child-led education, as opposed to what probably you and I know of education, where it's really an adult standing at the front of the room, dictating what all these children are going to learn at the same time. And we know that children are all individuals, and they all have different needs and different curiosities. So it's really about following the child. And that's a big kind of quote from Montessori education, is follow the child. That if we can learn to really observe and take time to see what the child is interested in, and really feed that curiosity, they are so eager to learn. They are, they're always just excited, as opposed to, okay, today we're all going to learn about, this color or this letter, and some of them just won't be interested, right? And that's when we get into conflicts and discipline and all of this. So
especially with all the different learning styles.
Excuse me?
Especially with all the different learning
Exactly,
styles, right?
exactly.
So there's the interest that all kids don't share the interest. And as we're seeing more and more, just these learning styles where kids are just not thriving.
Exactly.
Right? And yet we're blaming the child, rather than looking at what is it that we're doing, or what could we be doing differently as educators to support these kids.
Exactly. I forget the quote, but you remind me of the one about, if a child is not learning, look at the way you're teaching. It's not in the child. And even, when you say learning styles, to me, one of the beauty of like the Montessori classroom is this idea of freedom of movement.
Mm-hmm.
So in a traditional classroom, we're asked to sit still,
Mm-hmm.
which is, I'm sorry, but that is pure torture for a young child.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
they are
Mm-hmm.
they are wanting to move. So
Mm-hmm.
we actually incorporate movement in the lessons. I remember very well giving math lessons where I would sit as far away from the actual material so the child would get to move while they're doing the activity, right? So there's a real understanding of just the natural development of children and how we can really tune ourselves to what the child's needs are, that it's not about our needs, it's about their needs. So that is really, the main one. But for me, it's also a way of life. It's really, like I say, really an understanding and a respect for human development. So in the classroom, just to go a little further in the classroom, so the classrooms are always mixed ages for social, emotional interactions. Who would want to be working with only people their own age? Like that would be boring, right? We like to see what the younger ones are doing. We like to get information from the wiser ones. So it's the same thing in the classroom. It's usually about 3 years. My classroom, I had 2.5-year-olds to 6-year-olds. So you actually have 3 years in the same environment also. And it's just so beautiful to see the child blossoming during those 3 years. And that third year is they know everything and they can teach the younger ones, so it's beautiful to see and to witness. So there's that. There's also this idea of uninterrupted work cycles. And so this is about protecting children's concentration. We are constantly interrupting our children, constantly, right? And not letting them be in their flow, not letting them repeat an activity as many times as they feel necessary to master a skill, because we know that children will repeat and repeat and repeat, and that is a human need. So we respect that. And another thing that to me is really beautiful is in the environment, there's only one example of each activity. So we're learning there again social skills, because we have to wait our turn. We have to just naturally learn how to share. We don't have to be told, be nice and share. It's the environment that is providing. So it's really when you think of Montessori education, you think of a triangle where you have the environment, the child, and the adult. And the adult is really connecting the child to the environment. And the child is really, what is put out in front of them are all these activities that, through studying the child, we know that they are going to be eager to learn something or to master a certain skill. So, and it's really a freedom of choice. So once they've had an explanation of a presentation, they are free to choose that activity over and over again until they are satisfied with it, that, okay, I got this, and I can move on to the next level. And so it's really respecting all those individual children's timeline, right? They are going to learn at a different pace. So so that's really in a nutshell. And just one thing to really be aware, though, is that I think Montessori oftentimes kind of gets a bad rap of it's that school where children do whatever they want. Well, not really, because we really talk about freedom within limits. So as I was mentioning, the environment itself is giving you a limit. And and the educator that's in the classroom is, also has respectful ways of setting those boundaries and everything. And children are extremely respectful of each other's work, of each other's space, and just are happy to be working on their, own work. So yes, it's beautiful. And it also, another thing I think it gets, that the people think that it's only for preschoolers, but
That was my
actually,
next question. Yeah.
yeah. So Montessori, and the work that I do, I start before birth. So pregnancy, it's really, for me, it's really conception through university studies. So Montessori environments, so the more classic environments, can start as early as 3 months. So those we call the nido, which is nest in Italian, which is very much of a homey environment. And this is really done for the families where both parents have to work outside the home. So there's the nido, then there is what we call the toddler environment or the young children's environment, and that is the walking child to about 2.5. Then we have the primary classroom, or often known as the Casa dei Bambini, which is the children's house in Italian. And then there are 2 levels of elementary, and then there is the adolescent program. So it does go through all the way through high school.
Yeah, and that was one of my questions for you, because I think most think about it as, and I didn't even know that it went that high up, but I think so many of us think about Montessori as being kind of during the elementary, during the school years. And I'm glad that you brought up that it actually starts much younger. And I'd love to dive more into that. And the other thing I just want to say, as you're talking about this, what I really appreciate in this is the thoughtfulness, right? That it's like everything is really thought about, as opposed to kind of more of that top-down form of learning. So that thoughtfulness is something that seems to be just really sets it apart and is so special about it. I would love to hear more. And I know those, watching, because we're talking about how to create that stress-free environment, that calm, stress-free environment for babies. So to start it at 3 months, that's incredible. So what does that look like, right, for that sort of babyhood time of development?
So I'll just share with you kind of how I help families set up their environments at home. So whether you're expecting, or you've just brought a infant home, or even down the road as toddlers and everything, it's really about creating an environment that is purposeful and that is respecting of their stage of development. And so just remembering too that this is really temporary, right? They're not going to be babies forever. They're not going to be crawling forever and such. So it's really an awareness of how we live in very adult-centric environments. And that when we bring a new little human into our home, we need to give them an environment where they can adapt to their time, place, and culture with ease. And so it can be so simple as to just sit on the floor and look around, like, what is there for my child this low down? Or even, crawl around and see what's going on. And so for me, it's about, even sometimes, I remember very well going to a home, and they had just brought a little one home, and they had this beautiful wall of family photos, just gorgeous wall. And all I asked is that the last row be brought down, way down, so that the crawling baby could see them. And the mom told me that was just a game changer, because it would help him just be eager to go crawl. And then the beautiful storytelling, beautiful language acquisition, and telling stories about our ancestors and all of that. So it's just really trying to see the environment from their perspective, from their that's really the general sense of it. And so in setting up a home, I try to always consider 4 areas that are kind of the 4 basic areas that you want to be thinking about. There is the sleep area, the feeding area, the movement area, and then the physical care area. And so sleep is, I think, what sets the whole Montessori parenting apart is, for one, we really recommend what we call a floor bed.
Mm.
So don't even bother buying a crib, because a
Mm.
crib is a container that we put our child in, and a crib is really for us, the adult, to feel safe and know
Mm.
that our child is secure.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
when we do the floor bed, it's true that the entire room needs to be safe and such, but it's really this idea that we are giving from the beginning really respect to the child's need for movement, and
Mhm.
also this beautiful visual sense that they're developing, that they're who wants to see the world behind bars of a crib, right? So there they can see the whole environment, they can see it, and they can move. So parents will tell me, oh, but aren't they going to roll off the mattress? Yes, they will, but it's really a mattress on the floor, so they're not going to fall from very high, and
Mhm.
they're going to learn that it's more comfortable to stay on the mattress, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So, and there's plenty of safety things that you can do, but that's really one of the bigger ones. And then feeding for me is more about, and just to backtrack a little bit, when I say the 4 areas,
Mhm.
especially for young children and infants and all of this, it's this idea of having points of reference,
Mm.
so that when they are in that specific area, they know what is expected of them.
Mm.
They can anticipate what is going to happen. So it's really relaxing. It's
Mm.
really like, oh, this is where I relax. Oh, this is where I get fed. Oh, this is where I'm going to get a little massage, or
Mhm.
my poopy diaper is going to be taken off. Or so they know, and they can, and that's really reassuring. That's really giving them that sense of security.
Mhm.
So the feeding area at first is really for the adults. It's really, I want it to be a place where you can really relax and connect with your child, because at the beginning you're going to be in that area
Yeah. Yeah.
often.
Yes.
So it might as well be nice and relaxing for you. And then, further down the road, as they start solid, it's really a low table that they can get in
Mhm.
and out of. So everything is really about encouraging the independence that we all thrive for. The
And really
independent.
being able to see it from their perspective.
Exactly.
Right. Which I
Exactly.
think is that to me is what is really the game changer. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
love when you said, getting on the floor and crawling around, because how often is it that we see life from our child's perspective? It's such a paradigm shift that we have to make. And then once we
Mm-hmm.
do, it just opens up so many new and beautiful opportunities, not only for us, but especially for our child. Love
Yeah. And for me, oftentimes, like a young child's frustration
it. Mm.
often comes from just a little tweak in the environment that we can make, where they, we're all wanting to be able to do things for ourselves,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
especially young children. I mean, who hasn't heard a toddler say, me do it,
Yeah.
right? So let's set up the environment so that they can do it,
Yeah.
right? And keep them safe and such, but so that they feel confident that they can do it. So yes, the feeding, and then the movement area for me is really extremely important, where it's about letting natural development occur. So we are void of any type of contraption where we're
Mm.
putting our child into something that they cannot get themselves in or out,
Mhm. Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Except, of course, a car seat or stroller or something like that. But at home, let's make it a yes environment. Let's make our entire home, because it's their home too.
Mhm.
And like I said, it's temporary. It's
Mhm.
only going to last a few months. You
Mhm.
will be able to put, back those fragile items you had on your coffee table in a few years' time. But right now, let's make it so that you are not stressed because, oh my gosh, they're going to touch that, or I have to keep chasing them because they're going to get into something. Just just take the time to modify the environment, and you will thank me for it.
Well, and it seems it really cuts down on the power struggles and the disagreements and the defiance, right? Because there's, as you said, that's really what so much of that frustration is about oftentimes. So cutting that out really just opens up that freedom for a child to just explore.
Yeah. And to me, it's really that thought of be in a yes environment, like, you know, so really look at your environment. And also, you know, for me, Montessori is very, very strongly based in our capacity to observe. So to observe without judgment, without expectation, but really to see what the child is doing, so that then you can modify. Like if you see that a child is really starting to want to climb a lot, well, maybe there's something you could, you know, create in your home so that they could climb, or outside. Or if you can't, then you know that you have to maybe spend a little bit more time outside climbing, because that it's just part of their development. So they're showing us their needs. And that's why I say, you know, it's important for us to be their guides, to just guide them as to where we can say yes to them, right? As of always saying no, because we tend to say no quite too often.
So what happens when they are getting into something that isn't safe, right? Especially as babies, if they're getting in. So I mean, I'm assuming parents do their very best and they get into something that's not safe. What is the approach or response that a parent is advised to give their child in those situations?
So this would be my positive discipline hat, or, you know, but it's more about, for me, the phrase that I love is that my job is to keep you safe. It's my job to keep you safe, and I cannot let you do that. So it's not about, you know, no, you cannot, because you and I know that a child is going to look at you and go, what do you mean I can't? I'm doing it, right? So it's really about just giving them an option to be able to really satisfy the need that they're showing us. So, you know, like the climber, well, there's maybe, you know, certain pieces of furniture you do not want them to climb on. And so we just have to set those boundaries with loving kindness, and saying, I see that you're really wanting to climb, and let's go to the park and do that. Or, you know, there's a thing that we use also called the Pickler triangle, which is a little, you know, climbing structure that can easily put in a house or in a garden and such. So we're giving them like, oh, I see that you're, or even throwing, you know, that's something that comes up a lot. It's like, that's a need that they have. So let's give them the opportunity to do it. Where, yes, these soft balls, this basket of soft balls, this is for throwing. But, you know, the glass cup, I can't let you do that, right? That's we're really setting the boundaries with, like I say, loving kindness. You know, they need our guidance. They come to us, you know, just wanting, they're explorers. So we just need to guide them in that exploration.
Are there any children for whom Montessori is not recommended?
I would say no.
Okay.
Because I've always said that Montessori is really for every child, but not for every parent. Some parents really have a hard time with this whole idea of, you know, independence and respecting their child's different needs and all of that. So for me, it's really taking a look at ourselves. But I mean, I'm pretty adamant to when I say that, where I really truly believe, because of the fact that it is about following the individual child, that we adapt to that child. I mean, I had 24 children. They were all very different. So I did not have one lesson plan every day. I had 24 lesson plans every day, right? But I was respecting each individual. So for me, and some parents did pull their children out of the school because they were not ready to, you know, let their child be. I mean, I remember like one little girl who was, you know, probably a massive introvert. always, by herself. And her mother was concerned that she didn't have more friends. And it's like, that's just who she is. She's fine. Nobody's being mean to her. We're not telling her to sit by herself. That's just what she's choosing to do. So, it's just, great question. But to me, I think I really believe, and there is, there's even Montessori for special needs. So they've adapted, because that's actually where Maria Montessori started her journey in education, was in with children with special needs. So for me, it's just it's adapted to everybody. And one thing that is fascinating to me today is that we are doing work with Montessori for elderly people with dementia.
Wow.
The tools are coming back to bring back some basic skills that they've lost, or kind of that need to be independent, where sometimes in institutions the caregivers are going to do everything for the elderly, and they're needing to do things for themselves. So it's beautiful how it's just a full circle.
Absolutely. And what a beautiful way to, even in that age group, to prevent depression, right? And that sense of isolation. And oh my gosh, I love that. Oh gosh, Jeanne-Marie, I could talk to you about that all day long. This is just incredible. And, I think just in all of this, I think you really outlined these ways in which parents can create this calm and stress-free environment for the baby. Are there any other sort of parting words of wisdom or other little tips or strategies that you want to offer for those who have very young children who maybe are finding themselves in these stressful home environments, or who maybe already have the crib or aren't able to make some of the shifts? They're already a little bit in. Any other?
For me, for one, it's trust that you're always doing the best you can.
Yeah.
And really, really, really trust your own intuition. You know your child better than anybody else. So sometimes, we get anxious and we seek information here and there. That's okay. But at the same time, find a moment to be mindful, to quiet down, and just really, what does my child need from me? Really. And for children who can verbalize, ask them, what do you need from me? Right? Because I think that's something that's really important. And I guess one of the things that I will say is to minimize what you put in front of your child. That we tend to think that they need more and more stuff, and they really don't. The saying, the less is more, is really, really true for young children. It's overwhelming for them to have to make so many choices. So, for young children, just really minimize and declutter, and you will see an immense shift in their behavior when there is just less to choose from.
Yeah. And their creativity blossoms, right? I mean, my favorite, and as so many of us know, I mean, I remember just all these things that were being bought for my kids or that came into the house, and what was their favorite thing? It was the pots and pans. It was the cardboard box that, I love that. And I think that's such an important reminder, because marketers are very savvy in terms of getting us to buy this stuff. Yeah. And so just knowing that, I love that reminder that less is more.
The baby industry is just completely nuts. So just, you really do not need anything, especially, at the beginning. It's like your arms, if you're breastfeeding, you've got food, so you're good.
Yes. We just need to turn down the volume. I always say, turn down the volume on all that noise that's coming in. Oh my gosh, this was such a powerful conversation. I'm so grateful for this. I know that you are so kind and generous in offering our viewers a free gift. I'm wondering if you'd like to share what you have for them. Sure.
Well, I created basically what I thought was the minimal needs for a nursery. When I see the beautiful, photos of nursery and everything, I always have to think, like, who is this really for? Like, is it, is it for the parents to be able to show it off, or is it really, appropriate for that infant's development? So that's what I'm sharing with all of you, is just really a list of some of the bare minimum of, what you need, and also some of the Montessori mobiles that we use and things like that. So
Thank you for
hopefully you'll like
that.
that. Sure.
Thank you for that. I'm sure that will be so valuable. So Jeanne-Marie, how can people find you and how can they follow the incredible work that you're doing?
Well, you mentioned at the beginning, I have a podcast, The Art of Parenting, that I share interviews weekly. So that's been my new kind of baby that I've really enjoyed. And then my website is yourparentingmentor.com. And I have, plenty of information there, or otherwise I'm on Instagram at Jeanne-Marie Paynel.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This was fantastic. I wish I could go back in time and redo and just hire you and start all over again. And so I'm so grateful and appreciative. And I think that no matter what age of your child, there are some really valuable gems and takeaways that Jeanne-Marie provided for all of us today. And so parents, I really invite you to spend some time really just reflecting on today's discussion. As always, going into your journal, writing down some notes while they're fresh in your mind, thinking about your biggest takeaways. And no matter what age your child is, just thinking about maybe one thing that you'd like to commit to practicing or trying based on what was shared today, because there was a lot of valuable information, especially that takeaway about really the importance of being able to get into our child's world and seeing life from their perspective, I think is just truly remarkable. So thank you again, Jeanne-Marie, for being with us, for spending this time and taking this time. And parents, thank you as always for being here, for just giving yourself the gift of this time and taking in all this knowledge and valuable information that is being shared. So I'm looking forward to seeing you again soon for another day of the Becoming an Empowered Parent series. Jeanne-Marie, lovely to see you. And parents, I'll see you soon. Bye for now.
All righty. Bye-bye.